Hello, welcome back to the Progressive Moose. I apologize it's been so long for the little amount of people that are going to watch this. I'm sure you know life happens, but here I am now. Okay, so let's jump into it. Today we're going to go to the theater that is Canadian Parliament. This was actually last week that this happened, but everyone's covering it, and I just want to share it here because I want to break it down a little bit. But yeah, so let's take a look at a back and forth between Pierre Poilievre and Justin Trudeau in Parliament.
Stop the auto theft that has run rampant under this Prime Minister. He's now throwing a cape over his back, claiming that he's the hero on auto theft, but it's actually tripled in Toronto, and it's up by 100% in Montreal after he brought in catch and release and house arrest for car thieves, and after his incompetence allowed our ports to spin out of control and our cars to be exported to overseas crime and terror networks. Why doesn't he reverse his policies instead of another meeting?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, this is a serious situation. Canadians are concerned about this, and the Conservative leader just chooses to whip out his empty slogans and continue to blame everyone while we're getting to work. We're pulling together stakeholders and leaders from across the government to look at what more we can do. We've seen successes. CBSA agents have intercepted over 1,600 stolen cars last year in 2023, but there's more to do. We're going to continue to make the steady work and investments necessary to keep Canadians safe and to keep crime down.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
To keep crime down. Crime is way up. Violent crime is up 40% under this Prime Minister. And today he had his ministers hold a big press conference as their solution. And in it, they put out a press release that said, and I quote, "In 2022, approximately 9,600 vehicles were stolen in the Toronto area alone, representing a 300% increase since 2015. End quote. Wow. What happened in 2015?
What happened?
I know, he happened, Mr. Speaker. How can we make him unhappen and stop the crime?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, in 2015, Stephen Harper presented a budget that had slashed funds for policing, slashed funds for CBSA officers, slashed funding for Veterans Affairs Services, and we were there to clean up the mess, to cut taxes for the wealthiest 1%, lower them for the middle class, to support families, to start moving forward on gun control in real ways while the Conservatives cozy up to the American gun lobbies. We've continued to step up and keeping Canadians safe. Let them bring assault weapons back to our streets. We'll keep Canadians safe.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Wow, is he ever losing control of himself? Oh my goodness. Screaming and hollering like that. Mr. Speaker, it's his press release that says that in Toronto, auto thefts are up 300% since he took office. His solution is to hold a summit. He held a summit on food prices. Food prices went up. He held a summit on housing. Housing costs doubled. How much is crime going to rise after all the bigwigs go to his summit?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition has trouble believing that we would actually include real facts in our press release, something he and the Harper government never did for years. Yes, Mr. Speaker, there is a real challenge around auto theft in this country, and our solution is to roll up our sleeves, pull together partners from across the country, and get to solving it. His solution, throw his hands up in the air, blame a raft of political attacks on us, and continue to see that he's not putting forward any real solutions, Mr. Speaker.
All right, so let's look at that back and forth, okay? Because there's a couple things I want to kind of point out here that to me is just obvious kind of stuff. But anyway, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is what Justin Trudeau said at one point in there, and you can go back and look. But when he starts his, as Polyev says, he's yelling and whatever else. I mean, he's not wrong. Anyway, he talks about, okay, his exact words is they cut taxes for the wealthiest 1%, is how he starts it off. And then he says, helping the middle class, which is great, of course, and helping families. But look, just that one little piece there, cut taxes for the wealthiest 1%. That, to me, right there it's either a big slip up in terms of, he got his wording wrong, he didn't say it right, or he's just flat out giving you like, hey, like, we're worried about the top 1%, we're worried about the wealthiest, which, if you've ever, anyone that's had a conversation with me on politics, I full on say, like, listen, it doesn't matter, conservative, liberal, it's all about where their donations come from, right? With what corporations they get their donations from. So if it's oil companies, of course, they're going to, make sure the interests of the oil companies are pretty okie dokie, behind the scenes sort of thing. Yeah, you can say that, liberals are all about climate change and yada, yada, yada. Yeah, they talk a big game, but in all honesty, it's really not that big of a priority for them if we're going to be serious about it, okay? So, yeah, and further on that, let's look at Polyev on that one. So I haven't seen a conservative come out and call Justin Trudeau out on that specific line, that little snippet right there. Like, that's gold, right? Why aren't they pointing that one out? Because they want the same thing in that sense, in terms of that square of political topic, right? They want the same thing. They want to cut tax for the rich and, help the middle class a little bit, just to make it look like they care about the rest of us. But if you're below the middle class, whether it's liberal or conservative at this point, you don't matter. We don't matter. We're all on the bottom, and we can all be damned, and really, to both of them. Like, where's the conservatives saying, like, hey, did you hear what he said there? Like, don't get me wrong, like, Polyev has some good talking points in there, okay? He does have some good information. Could argue that, yes, Trudeau also has a good point in terms of Harper did cut quite a bit in terms of the agents and whatnot, leading to not having enough. So, but again, like, the Liberals do have to do more in terms of the auto theft and stuff like that. And Polyev says he held a summit. Yeah, well, they have to get together and talk. They have to figure out what their game plan is gonna be. So, to me, there's nothing wrong with holding a summit, and there are, things going through. I mean, I live in Ontario, and I can tell you right now that on the city level, the mayor of Toronto is currently working on and with law enforcement to figure out and do better in that sense, as well as on a provincial level. Like, as much as it's Doug Ford. I mean, credit where credit's due. Doug Ford is doing some to help out with the car thefts, right? So credit where credit's due. Hey, I don't like Ford, but at least in that sense, yeah, okay, he's helping out and he's doing good. So, hey, I'll give it to him. And on the federal level, they need to do better. Yes, absolutely. Not just in Toronto, but across Canada, right? And, you can get into a kind of tree of different issues that are you could technically say are connected, and even if it is a small percentage, leading to more crime just in general. I think whether it's cost of living, people are getting more desperate, and especially auto thefts. There was a report came out in Toronto. I mean, average from what they understand, from what they know of, from people that they've caught and arrested from auto thefts, these guys that are stealing these cars are on the bottom tier, and they're getting paid about $2,000, average $2,000 a car, right? So, and I'm not saying because people are desperate because of the cost of living, that's why you're seeing the auto thefts. No, but I'm sure there's a percentage of the people that are stealing the vehicles that's probably their motivation. Cost of living, and it's a quick, easy 2,000. They're desperate. They need to feed themselves. They need to house themselves and their families. So I'm sure there's a percentage of people that are in that position that are doing it. I'm not giving an excuse. I'm not saying it's a major percentage. I'm not saying that would fix the issue completely. No, but you have to have nuance when you're talking about this stuff, right? You got to look at the overall picture. And things that could be connected. But hey, you know what? There absolutely has to be more in terms of these car thefts. So moving forward, let's see what happens. And yeah, we'll go from there. So hopefully this one shows you where, listen, I'm not biased towards one party. I will most certainly call out things that people are doing wrong and credit where credit's due. And I try to do that. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, in all actuality, again, look at the way Parliament is. It's it's essentially just a soap opera at this point. It's a theater. It's a show for all of us to sit there and watch. And some have good points. They all have good points within what they're talking about. When it comes to this, right? They both have valid points. But again, nobody's actually sitting down with each other to fix the problems, right? And that's what government's supposed to do. Come together and hammer out how we can fix things together, but they're not. I've said it before. Anyway, till next time, guys.